Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. Urging you to take a look at the new upgraded Tarpley.net. You can buy my books there, all of them. 9/11 Synthetic Terror, the methodological part of that, absolutely essential. If you don't know your moles, patsies, technicians, and the role of drills, you can't tell the players in current contemporary history. So you got all kinds of giving possibilities, right? Orthodox Christmas coming up, Epiphany coming up, great chances to give some gifts of enlightenment from that website. So click on the various books displayed, and you can order them in many languages: Japanese, German, French, Italian, Spanish, as well as in English. So this is now Umar Farouk Abdul Muttalab in touch with Awlaki, the CIA Laki from Yemen, and the new axis of evil. Now, the new axis of evil, again, trumpeted forth by Anglo-American propaganda during the weekend, and that is the following. Afghanistan, Pakistan, considered to be one unit, one entity, Afpakia, an awful concept. Afghanistan, Pakistan, in reality, these are two different countries, but Afghanistan, Pakistan is one, Somalia is two, well-known, Black Hawk Down, and now Yemen, USS Cole in the background. This is the new axis of evil, and sure enough, on the Monday after Christmas, Obama came forward and recited this. He didn't call it the axis of evil, but it's clear. This is now the functional equivalent of the Bush axis of evil. The new axis of evil, once again, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Somalia, Yemen. And in the middle of that, we have AQAP, Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. There were two large U.S. bombing raids on Yemen in the last 2 weeks, not targeting, so far as we know, Al-Qaeda. Apparently, Awlaki, the CIA Laki, made it out fine, but targeting the Houthi rebels, Houthi, Houthi rebels. These are Shiites friendly to Iran, backed by Iran. The Houthi rebels are in a civil war against the central government of Yemen, which is a weak entity. The Yemen central government are the Sunnis of the place, backed by Saudi Arabia, backed then by the U.S. But what the U.S. is trying to do now is to introduce a counter-gang, a third force, and that is precisely Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, AQAP, a new secret army of the U.S. and the British, a total Anglo-American creation. Now, this is not speculation. Let's see, we can go through some background about it. Let's just see what some of these press organs have to say. Let's go now to the Washington Post of December 28th, and here's what they say. This episode serves as another sobering reminder that eliminating Afghanistan as a haven for terrorist planning is necessary but not sufficient. Yemen will be, quote, a fertile ground for the training and recruitment of Islamic militant groups for the foreseeable future, say Andrew Exum, E-X-U-M, and Richard Fontaine in a report issued last month by the Center for the New American Security. And these two authors, Exum and Fontaine, go on to say, Internet message boards linked to Al-Qaeda are encouraging fighters from across the Islamic world to flock to Yemen, they noted. A successful U.S. counterterrorism strategy, says the Washington Post, will have to devote attention and, more important, resources, read bombing, to states such as Yemen and Somalia if they are not to become the next Afghanistan. The Obama administration appears to understand this reality, as demonstrated by U.S. involvement in recent Yemeni airstrikes on al-Qaeda forces there. Okay, so you can get this. It's called On the Knife's Edge, Yemen's Instability and the Threat to American Interests, Center for a New American Security, November 2009. Now, but the thing is, the U.S. is actually building this up. For example, we have the case of Saeed Ali al-Shiri, A-L-S-H-I-H-R-I, al-Shiri. Associated Press says, Saeed Ali al-Shiri, a Saudi man released from Guantanamo after spending 6 years inside a U.S. prison camp, is now the number 2 of Yemen's al-Qaeda branch, according to a purported Internet statement from the terror network. Now, the right-wing Yahoo will say, oh, it's outrageous, Obama's a softie, he's letting those terrorists run wild. The deeper level is that this is precisely what they want. In other words, Guantanamo is being depopulated. There are about 100 Yemenis there for the purpose of creating a al-Qaeda counter-gang inside Yemen, which will destroy Yemen, but it can also get a war going between Saudi Arabia and Iran. And above all, it can prevent the, let's say, anti-U.S. tendencies inside Saudi Arabia from coming to fruition. But, of course, there's more. Let's look at some more. The Wall Street Journal. Here's a very interesting editorial. The Terror This Time, December 28th, Wall Street Journal. Mr. Abdul Muttalib's alleged links to Yemen also raise questions about why the administration is now returning Guantanamo detainees to that unstable Middle East country. Now, the cover story is they're being given back to Yemen, so they're going to be put in jail there. Well, they'll either get out individually or there'll be a spectacular jailbreak. You'll see. Why is the administration returning Guantanamo detainees to Yemen? They go straight from Guantanamo to the battlefield in Yemen. Pentagon officials have raised alarms about Yemen as an emerging al-Qaeda sanctuary for at least a year. And we may now have the first case of a terrorist trained there to strike at U.S. airlines or domestic targets. The Yemen government says it is cooperating with the U.S. and the CIA, is said to be providing intelligence for some of Aden. Aden, it's really not Aden, but it's Sana'a, I think. But Aden, probably the biggest city, the port down there at the southern edge of the Arabian Peninsula. Their anti-Al-Qaeda efforts. But at this point, the repatriation of Gitmo detainees to Yemen seems dangerous and recklessly so. Yeah, it's reckless, it's dangerous because this is the purpose of it, to be dangerous to Yemen. Now, here's the Iranian view. Iran, of course, has got a stake in this. They have an axe to grind. They support the Houthi rebels. And one of the things that the al-Qaeda counter-gang, AQAP, is going to do inside Yemen is to kill the supporters of the Iranians, but also others. Here's what Iranian Press TV says around the 20th of November. Quote, a meeting between the Yemeni president, Saleh, S-A-L-E-H, and a U.S. delegation led by John McCain instigated the new round of fighting in northern Yemen, a report says. At the time of the meeting back in August, it was announced that the former U.S. presidential candidate was meeting with Ali Abdullah Saleh, again the president of Yemen, to discuss the possibility of recruiting al-Qaeda forces for the Yemeni army, the Al-Minbar Arabic language website reported. According to the Arabic language news outlet, the meeting focused on how al-Qaeda members could be persuaded to stand by and with the Yemeni army in the event of new clashes with the Shia Houthi fighters in the north. As a prelude to the military attack, Washington has already released hundreds of al-Qaeda members from prisons in Saudi Arabia, Yemen, and Guantanamo, and transferred them to Yemen with false nationalities, says this report from Al-Minbar. How about them apples? You get the idea. This is being done now. The Yemeni government is being told that the al-Qaeda people are going to help them against the Houthi rebels. There'll be a flanking, supplementary irregular force for the Yemeni army, which is rather weak, but in reality it's not going to look quite the same way. Now, again, why? The dollar is collapsing. The dollar is in dire, dire straits. In 1973-74 under Kissinger, and in 1979 under Brzezinski, the U.S. Imperialists had one response to this, which is to provoke a fake oil crisis, some kind of explosion of tension, real or fake, largely fake, but partly real, in the Gulf and in this area, be it a boycott or some seizure of power or destabilization and so on, which tends to drive up the price of oil. You drive the price of oil up to $200, $300, $400, $500 a barrel. This sucks up all that dollar overhang in the world. The Chinese have to spend much more. They're going to find their dollars taken out of their hands to pay for oil. That will then go into the Middle East and then into the coffers of J.P. Morgan and Goldman Sachs. So one way to do it is to play Iran against Saudi Arabia through this proxy war that the two are waging inside Yemen and get your own al-Qaeda counter-gang in there to exacerbate things. Back in a minute.